And with that, I welcome you into Coach's Corner, aka the Lucas and Layla show. A very sleepy Layla on a Wednesday night. So, coming at you live once again during the Philadelphia Boston series. The Celtics are up, I believe, 6 right now against Philadelphia. So I don't think we'll get to the end of this game like we did last stream. But regardless, that's going on in the background while I talk to you about some of the playoffs to start. And I think first start off, the Nuggets and Suns are a good place. That game happened on Monday night. Nuggets take a commanding 2-0 lead to Phoenix behind Nikola Jokic's, what is it? Oh, I don't know, a 39-16 game. Unbelievable performance from him in a game where the Nuggets, normally their offense is normally going crazy. They normally pop off and do their thing on offense. Wasn't happening for a majority of the game, and then a lot of that second half was dominated by Jokic's offense, and really, like I said, kind of took over the game. And then Joel Embiid won MVP, which I saw coming, and I discussed it on a different episode, but kind of was clear once like the narrative was definitely shifting during the end of the season. It was clear that was going to happen, regardless of what I thought. And let's see, Lakers Warriors game one was last night. That was a tough game to watch because I don't the Warriors I don't think played up to their like best spot. Like I don't think Steph played good. Clay was good. Draymond, I think, could be better than what Draymond's limited in his action now, but I think he could be better than what he was last night. Wiggins, I don't think was his best potential. A lot of guys, I don't think the Warriors played up to their, like I said, potential. But the Lakers dominated the game. It felt like because Anthony Davis was the Anthony Davis we all know and love, and that's a player that gets forgotten about in the shuffle of the league because he's not consistently healthy. And, it's not even like a knock against him. It's just tough. It's the tough truth because healthy Anthony Davis and aggressive Anthony Davis is probably a top 5 talent in the league on both ends of the floor. And, like I said, it doesn't get really talked about much because he isn't consistently healthy, although this year he was. And he'll probably get on an All-NBA team because of that. And, like I said, the like level that he can reach on both ends of the floor is astonishing. And yesterday having a 30-20 game against the defending champs, I think only proves more that he's a top 5 player in this league when healthy. But we need to see him healthy. But that was a good game. Knicks clawed their way back into the series after some helpful calls from Scott Foster. Thank you very much. Bam Adebayo refuses to get me player props. Whenever I put a slip in on underdog with Adebayo rebounds, he knows. I don't. I'm not even posting them. I'm not posting that I'm betting on Adebayo rebounds. He just is like, yeah, he's got one on me tonight. I'm gonna get no rebounds because he goes out of his way to not get rebounds. So it's like, I'm sorry, I don't know what I did to you, Bam Adebayo, but something like that. I don't know. It's frustrating. But it's the game we play when you put down a little chunk of change. Either way, Knicks tie up that series in a game that I think, it was fairly weird because the Heat didn't have Jimmy Butler down for a sprained ankle. And I thought that, the Heat obviously played fantastic without him. But I thought the Knicks just didn't look ready for this type of game, this game plan. They looked unprepared. I don't know if they were expecting a different type of feel for this Heat team, and it didn't come. But yeah, no, that was an interesting game. And going 1-1 to South Beach, I don't think is a good feel for the Knicks. And I fear that the Heat will make it to the finals just to spite me, just because good old middle finger up to Lucas. But regardless, that's in the past now. Like I said, I don't think many games will be played here over the next couple days. Like until obviously I'll come back next week on Monday. We'll probably get some more definitive stuff about these series. But going into halftime, Philadelphia's up, or no, Boston's up 57-49. So I always kind of thought that Embiid's back for this game as well. I forgot to mention that, and I thought that Boston would do better against them with Embiid than the game they played on Monday, just because it's not predictability that the Sixers have when Embiid isn't on the floor. It's just, or on the floor, but it's just like a different feel, different flow, a different you know. James Harden gets the priority. Maxey understands he needs to be aggressive, and with Embiid, he's now the MVP, so you kind of have to share that with him, and it's just an interesting dynamic. But that's the NFL or the NBA draft or NBA recap for the time being. But now we get back to our regularly scheduled program, and that is the draft grades. That's right. We're starting off in Baltimore. We're in the AFC now, so did the NFC on Monday. Check that out if you haven't. Also, make sure to check out the chip bracket fights. I recorded that, posted that on Tuesday. Make sure to like, subscribe that video, share it, all that good stuff. But back to the grades, we got Baltimore. I gave them a B+. And really, I loved their first two picks. I thought they were great picks. Zay Flowers was my favorite receiver to watch over this draft process. I thought he was a playmaker. Reminded me of like a Wan'Dale Robinson, but boosted. Like, I really liked Wan'Dale Robinson when he came out in the draft. But Zay Flowers was that and took it to another level of playmaking. So I love Zay Flowers' pick there to really kind of round out that receiving core they have with this trio of Odell Beckham, Flowers, and Rashad Bateman. So I really like that pick. Trent Simpson falling this far into the third round, I think, a super athletic guy. I think this could be... I'm going to post something like LK League notes about Trent Simpson's skill set and stuff a little bit, but I thought this was a great Ravens pick. Him falling to the third round and them snagging him up, I like that a lot. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know these guys per se, but Andrew Voorhees was a guard that tore his ACL. I don't know if he was training, but he tore his ACL during the process, but still kind of went through the stuff and was kind of projected, I think, the first couple rounds, first 2 or 3 rounds, but falls to the 7th because of that ACL. And I think this is a really good situation for him to just rehab the year out and potentially find a spot in Baltimore's starting rotation of guards. Moving on to the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills, not a team that I frankly loved their draft at all. I gave them a C-. I very close to a D. Just Dalton Kincaid in the first round, I didn't love. A lot of people are high on Dalton Kincaid. I was not one of them. I thought he's a fine tight end, but several guys that I think translate better both as a blocker and a receiver, where Kincaid's more of a receiver type, and he's fine, but it also comes to the fact they have Dawson Knox, who they just signed to an extension, and I get it. They wanted another pass catcher. He'll probably split out wide more, but still, I don't love this pick. I think there were receivers on the board you could have maybe taken a swing at, and I just didn't find it to be a smart decision, and I don't. We'll see how it works out, but I don't know. I did like the Osiris Torrance pick in the second round here. I thought that was a really good pickup. Their offensive line was lacking. Roger Saffold, my friend Sam Watts will attest to his awfulness and how he should probably not be a football player anymore on this earth. But Torrance is a good physical lineman. I think he's a really solid piece for them to develop. And Dorian Williams, I think he's an underrated pick here. Just because I think he's kind of him and Ivan Pace Jr., who went undrafted. I thought those two guys were late round off-ball linebackers I thought could find their way into a good situation. With my Falcons, I thought one of them maybe, but really like Dorian Williams here from Tulane. But then Justin Shorter, I don't like him. Then an Ole Miss guard, 2 picks in the 7th round. Hard to really say, but just how much I didn't like the Kincaid pick, and even when they went receiver, I don't like Justin Shorter. Just straight up don't think he's very good at all. So C- for the Bills. Moving on down to the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals, I gave them a B+. I thought they did a good job in the draft, improving some positions of need. Miles Murphy on the edge. I don't think it ever hurts to get too many edge rushers. DJ Turner, our cornerback. They had some guys leave, I believe, in the offseason here, so good pickup there for a guy who I think ran the fastest time at the 40. So I like him. Jordan Battle, up and down, I think, during his last season at Alabama, but still a productive safety that, hopefully can slot in after Jesse Bates leave. Charlie Jones was an underrated guy that I think rose throughout the draft process. And him in the 4th round, I think, is a really good pick. He was, the number 1 guy at Purdue with a quarterback that threw the ball a decent amount. So plugging him into this offense, I think, is a good idea. Chase Brown, this was the pick I really, really, really loved. Chase Brown, Samaje Perine just left off to Denver. And they kind of used him as a kind of a multi-purpose back. And Joe Mixon is just kind of in trouble just most of the time. Or this offseason, I think he is. Like another legal issue. And who knows how much longer they want to keep him on there as he's doing this. And also has a big contract for a running back. But Chase Brown can be the guy that steps up and do a running back 1 role that I wouldn't rule out. I definitely think he'll get some carries. I think he might have some competition with like Chris Evans. I'm not sure if that's it's not the actor. It's the running back from Michigan, I believe. And either way, I think Chase Brown can find his way into the league. I mean, he was a workhorse back, was pretty much the Illinois offense last year, and I think he can be a big piece in this offense as well. Receiver from Princeton, I thought he was a pretty good receiver, and the sixth round is about his range. I have no issues with that. And then punter and a defensive back from Miami in the late round. So, whatever. Moving on to the Cleveland Browns. I have a C for the Cleveland Browns. A team that didn't really have a ton of options, not a ton of picks. Cedric Tillman from Tennessee. See, in the 3rd round is when they got their first pick, and it was Cedric Tillman, wide receiver, Tennessee. They have some good receivers already. This is more of a depth pick, I guess. But I like Tillman. I thought he was a good contested catch receiver for Tennessee. Siaki Ika from Baylor. I liked his tape more than the draft process because he basically turned out to be an awful athlete, and it makes sense. He's like a 350-pound Samoan defensive tackle. But, if you're going to be that big, you have to be a little bit athletic, and he was not a little bit athletic. You have DeJuan Jones, who fell in the draft. A similar issue where he's a monster, a massive man, I think 6'8", 350. He had a basketball highlight tape, but either way, a big person. I think his athleticism just brought him down. Then some later round picks I don't really know much about, but Dorian Thompson-Robinson I think is a fun draft pick. I don't know how much he'll do anything. Like, I don't think he'll be a starter at some point in his career, but I think a fun backup that maybe can be exciting for a week when Deshaun Watson's out. I don't know. Luke Weipler, center out of Ohio State. I do like that pick a lot in the 6th round here. I think that was a good sneaky pickup for their last pick. Then we have the Denver Broncos, the good old AFC West team. And for a team that only had, 5 picks, 1 in the 2nd round, 2 in the 3rd round, I thought they did a great job at getting some good quality players. Marvin Mims, I think he's a really good fit for Sean Payton's offense as just a deep threat. And he reminds me of Terry McLaurin a lot. The way he's not a big guy, but he has a good way of going up and high pointing the ball, catching it in contested situations. But I like him a lot. Drew Sanders, I think, is a really solid pick here as well. He just is kind of a go-getter. The running or the white linebacker archetype, that whole deal. Riley Moss, first white cornerback since 2003. Not to make it about race, but that's pretty cool, right? Riley Moss, they might move him to safety, though, so that's kind of the issue that he's playing with. But Riley Moss is actually a good player. I think it was on the All-Big Ten team. Either way, I like that pickup a lot. And then safety from Boise State. And Alex Forsythe is a guy I kind of like. He's off and on, but he's a 7th rounder, so. But good draft from them. Then we go to Houston. Houston, I think, did a great job. A- for them. They took the biggest swing of the draft, I think, by far in compensation. C.J. Stroud was the second pick. They got him. And then they traded up from their 12th spot and next year's first round and some other stuff, but to get Will Anderson. So they paired who could be the best quarterback in the draft class. I don't think it's out of the question, with the best defensive player in the draft class. And then they got a center from Penn State. Sure, that's pretty good. And then Tank Dell here in the third round. I really like him to help out C.J. Stroud. He's a playmaker. I think he's like a really good release guy at the line of scrimmage. Could be a factor. Dylan Horton, sure, an edge from TCU doesn't hurt. Henry To'oTo'o is kind of your typical linebacker that'll just get a bunch of tackles, but isn't very good much else. Jarrett Patterson, good center. Xavier Hutchinson's also a really good value pick here in the 6th round. I didn't love him. I don't think he produced that well this season, but he's shown in the past. I think he has tools to be really good. But Texans, I really think this was a solid draft for them. They could have gone Anthony Richardson, and I probably would have been just as high on this. But C.J. Stroud I had as the best pure passer in this league. And I mean, this is a big swing for them here in year one of D'Amico Ryans, but I think it's a risk worth taking, and I like it. So, good stuff for the Texans. Then moving on to the Colts, and we're just basically knocking out the AFC South here. Colts, I gave an A+. I mean, I gave similar, like I said, Anthony Richardson was the best upside pick in this draft. I think that's just kind of objectively true. I mean, the best athlete out of the guys. His completion percentage is worrying, but I don't think I think it's overblown because of you look at what he was working with his offensive line. His receivers dropped plenty of passes, and the offense was just bad. Offense was just flat out bad for him. But I mean, I think the upside's there, and it's a swing that I think is worth taking, especially for Shane Steichen and co. Eagles offensive coordinator last year plays with a similar type of quarterback here, Jalen Hurts. So it makes sense. Julius Brents is a really solid corner from Kansas State. Super athletic, bigger, physical kind of guy. Coming from the Big 12 is concerning, but the player I think is pretty good. Josh Downs is a kind of a nice change of pace receiver, I think, for Richardson to have. They have Alec Pierce already, Michael Pittman, both kind of bigger, rangier guys, where Josh Downs is that smaller, speedier slot guy, and I like him a lot. Blake Freeland was a great pick in the 4th round. I thought he had a good amount of power, good pass rush or pass blocker. Adetomiwa Adebawore from Northwestern. They have him listed as a D tackle. I think he could be a D end as well, like a power guy. Either way, he was a good value pick. I thought he could go in the 2nd round, and him falling the 4th round here is really good for them. Darius Rush, a corner from South Carolina. Those tend to work out pretty well, so I like that swing. Safety from California, sure. Wagner edge, sure. Will Mallory ran the best 40 as a tight end. Shout out Jackson Kelly for that fact. So I like that. I believe he did at least. I like that pick. They have a tight end here and there, but I mean, a swing on a guy in the 5th round, worth it. As well as a running back, Evan Hull from Northwestern, who is kind of Peyton Hillis-like, and not just because he's a big old white dude at running back, but he kind of like he goes to the sideline and just turns the corner slowly, but he's speeding up. Like it's really odd. It's like you see someone like slowly just like drifting, and then they turn the corner, and all of a sudden they're zooming like 50 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour. Like it's a weird style of running that he has, but it's effective, and I like him maybe as a change of pace guy. Jacksonville, I gave a C+. They're a team that was in a weird spot. They obviously kind of advanced, I think, further than many people thought they would. And for that reason, it kind of gave them a bad draft spot with, basically every need that they had kind of just went off the board. And it was just like the talent didn't justify a 1st-round pick. Now, they moved back with the Bills to get Anton Harrison, who I think is an okay offensive tackle, and is a need after their starting tackle just got suspended for PEDs, I believe. So, I mean, it's a good pick. He's a fine player, a good pass blocker, but Okay. Brenton Strange, I thought that was a strange pick for a tight end on the board there with, I think, better guys on the board. I think Bigsby, I think, is a good compliment back to put back there with Travis Etienne, Tyler Lacey, and Yasir Abdullah. I really like off the D line. Ventrell Miller, sure. But here, I like these two picks. Antonio Johnson, safety from Texas A&M. Safety's not a valuable position, so he falls to the 5th round, and I think Jaguars did a good job scooping him up. And Parker Washington, I don't think he got a lot of love over this draft process. I liked his film a lot. It's just he didn't have the volume of a lot of guys. Like, Sean Clifford just stinks, and it's hard to really judge receivers like Parker Washington, who didn't play a lot and had to play with a quarterback who was subpar. But I like him in the 6th round a lot. I really do. That's probably my favorite pick of theirs. Then we move on to the Chiefs. We kind of get a AFC West run here. Chiefs, I gave a B-. That's right, a B-. Not a really exciting draft for, name-wise. Like, I think they had multiple spots where they could have drafted more fun names. But Felix Anudike Uzoma, I really, really, really like him. Thought that was a smart pickup after Frank Clark got cut. Rashee Rice was a receiver I wasn't super high on, but I mean, I don't think it hurts bringing in him. I think with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, anything is possible. So I like getting a receiver there second. Then honestly, some guys that I'm not too familiar with, but I really do like those first two picks a decent chunk. So moving on to the Raiders, I put the Raiders as a B+. I thought the Raiders had a good draft. It was one of those as they could have gone anywhere and no one would have blamed them. And they went Tyree Wilson first, and getting an edge rusher on the other side of Max Crosby, I don't think is a bad idea for team building. Michael Mayer was a good pickup in the 2nd round, especially after you traded Darren Waller. Byron Young is a good tackle. Trey Tucker's a decent receiver. Christopher Smith in the 5th round is a really good pick too. I mean, kind of a playmaker, a leader for the Georgia defense this past year, and landing up here, I mean, kind of a mature voice for a rookie. He probably is going to have, but I just overall I didn't hate their draft. Then we get to the Chargers. I gave them a C+. I was just really not a fan. Like, I like the players, I just don't like the fit. Quinn Johnston, I think, fits weird in this Chargers offense. With Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, I'm not too sure about it. I think maybe he could be a better long-term option than I'm giving him credit for. Tuapolota, I like him as well, but I don't know how he fits on this defense. He seems like a smaller edge, so maybe he works out as the 3-4 linebacker for him, but either way, I'm not crazy about that fit. Dan Henley, I really do like that one. I had him kind of mocked to the Falcons a couple times in later rounds. Decent guy. Darius Davis in the 4th round kind of seems like an overdraft to me. I don't know. I don't love that. They got Max Duggan in the 7th round. I do like that. I mean, I don't know. I heard this from, I believe, Part of My Take or somewhere I heard it, but teams should probably draft a quarterback in the 7th round. If you don't have like Patrick Mahomes or a franchise cornerstone, you should draft a quarterback every single 7th round. I mean, Brock Purdy just last year worked out, and it doesn't hurt to have those guys along. Like, it doesn't kill you, but regardless, like I said, a fine draft. They're close to a B- just because I like the players. It's just the fit wise, I have to give it a C+. Moving on to the Miami Dolphins, they only had 4 picks because they had to forfeit the first one because of tampering. But Cam Smith, I love this pick. This is perhaps my favorite pick of the draft. I had him in the late 1st round. I thought he was much better than where he got selected. Like I kind of said earlier, South Carolina corners, I feel like they just kind of work. This is not really like rocket science. Players that go to certain schools just end up being pretty good players, like LSU receivers or, I don't know, like Alabama safeties, like guys like that. And Cam Smith is just a good cornerback. I think he has to work on some stuff, but he won't be thrust into a starting role immediately, and that's good for him. Then Devin Etienne, I think, actually fits awesomely into a Shanahan-style run scheme here. Mike McDaniel's run scheme, more specifically. But I think he's a really good, archetype here in this offense. Similar to Tevin Coleman, who played for the Falcons during the Super Bowl run, just a one-cut and boom speed guy. And then, two guys in the 6th and 7th round, I don't know, but sure. Then we go to New England, and I gave New England an A. I thought they murdered the first part of this draft. Christian Gonzalez falling to 17 is shocking to me. As many know, I think it's pretty clear that I loved Christian Gonzalez. I thought he was a worthwhile cornerback, the best guy in the draft for me. And him falling to 17 was just shocking to me, and I like them trading back as well, getting some picks for that with the Steelers. But yeah, I just really like that pick. Keon White, I think, is a really athletic guy, a raw tools guy, and if there's anyone to develop him, then the Belichicks are probably those guys. Marte Mapu, this is the Sacramento State linebacker who's definitely just going to be an all-pro at some point during his career, just because, like I said, Patriots just kind of do this. And then they get Jake Andrews from Troy's, a small school guy I think I like a lot. Kicker from Maryland in the 4th round, okay. A guard from Eastern Michigan, guard from UCLA, a punter in the 6th round. It was a weird draft. After something in the middle happened and made this a weird draft, but they came back. I mean, Keyshawn Boot is kind of sure. Weird character guy, weird athletic scores, but the talent has been there. I don't know. Mario Douglas as a receiver I actually like a lot more, just from you don't have that off the field stuff and you get probably more explosive athlete wise. Amir Speed used to play for Georgia, transferred to Michigan State to, I guess, with Mel Tucker, the connection there. Super athletic, 6'3" corner. I think is a steal in the 6th round. And Isaiah Bolden from Jackson State. Cool. Then we move on to the good old New York Jets. New York Jets, I give them a B-. So it's one of those, I like the players. Don't love the positioning here. Like Will McDonald in the 1st round at 15, I think that's an overdraft. But Robert Saleh has a thing for edge rushers, so I think that's a good pick, but just an overdraft. Joe Tippmann could be the best center just because he's a lineman from Wisconsin. Carter Warren, I think he was a captain all 4 years or something. Carter Warren probably is a higher character guy that maybe is a 4th round success story. His teammate Israel Abinakanda, I love him. I think he's a really good running back, a really good lightning to Breece Hall's thunder. I think he led the country, or he was tied for the lead total touchdowns last year. So really solid pick up there. Corner from LSU, sure. And Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion, a tight end. Super athletic guy. I'm curious how he does at the next level. I like him. I do like him. Then last couple teams here. Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh I have an A+ for. Pittsburgh, you murdered this draft. Pittsburgh did an unbelievable job, finding value in good players. Broderick Jones in the 1st round. Obviously, this was around the range where he's going to get drafted, but they needed a tackle. They got a damn good tackle, probably the 3rd guy on my board. Third or 2nd. Joey Porter Jr., 1st round, or almost a 1st round talent that went basically in the 1st round at pick 32. It was the 1st pick of the 2nd round. Joey Porter, really, really good man corner. I like him here because they lost some guys, the Steelers did, so I like that pickup. Keanu Benton and Nick Herbig, both D linemen from Wisconsin that I was pretty high on. I thought they were really solid players. I think they could come in and be not immediate starters, but rotational pieces that really kind of change up the flow and relieve some guys while also being effective. Darnell Washington in the 3rd round here is a great pickup. Red zone target that can block as well. I think he could be pretty dangerous in the NFL if he can stay healthy. Then a guard from Maryland in the 7th round, and Corey Trice Jr., who is also a spoiler for LK League Notes, is in that class of I really, really, really like this pick. I really like the swing for Mike Tomlin and company. They do a good job in the later rounds, and I think Corey Trice Jr. could be the guy that we point out from this draft class that is an effective starter from the 7th round. So, really good player. And the last AFC team on the board is Tennessee. And Tennessee's one of the more strange cases to talk about because it's like they want to compete. They have a coach that wants to compete and a defense that wants to, be in the mix, but the offense is so far behind. And they did another step here where it's not immediate contributors outside of maybe the first guy. And this is something we won't be able to judge for probably another couple years. But Peter Skoronski, 11th pick, was around the range he was going to go. Best tackle in the draft class. Most consistent guy. Overall, just a really good player. I think he can just be consistent. Will Levis in the 2nd round. This is probably where he should be drafted. Just based on his skills. But, quarterbacks go earlier and people thought he was going to go earlier. But I had Will Levis to the Titans, but in the 1st round, like I said. But him in the 2nd round, I like this swing. Ryan Tannehill is probably gone sooner than later. Maybe after this year, maybe during this offseason. But regardless, I do like that pickup. Tyjae Spears was a personal favorite of mine at the running back position. I don't think it signs the end of Derrick Henry, but I think they've drafted running backs in the last couple seasons, and so it's another step closer to Derrick Henry not being a Titan. But Tyjae Spears I do like, and Josh Wiley I think is a good overall tight end. Jalen Duncan, sure, I think is a good swing, and 7th round receiver. But regardless, all in all, a good draft for most AFC teams. I didn't hate anyone's draft too much outside of San Francisco's over the entire process. But that's the NFL draft, and I gotta say, outside after LK League Notes, I'm gonna have to cleanse myself from the NFL draft for at least a month. I'll be looking at names on my own time, in my own sicko time, but talking about it and covering stuff like this, I'm pretty much done. I'm tapping out until college football comes around. I can't do it anymore. The draft is one of my favorite events. I say it constantly, but this is enough draft for me. I know way too many names of players that probably will never play. But that'll do it for me. I am your host, Lucas Kochevar. As always, make sure to like, share, subscribe. Check out the chip video that I posted on the channel, youtube.com/Coach's Corner or at Coach's Corner. But check that out. Leave that a like. Share that. Liking and sharing is always the theme of the end of the show, but it is truly the best way I can grow. Hopefully put out good stuff, and I'll be back next week. So until then, enjoy the NBA playoffs, enjoy the NHL playoffs, and I will see you guys next time.